All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, July 20th. Big risk on day for the markets. We'll get into all the big movers of the day. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through here is for education purposes only. If the screen is a little bit blurry, it's just because YouTube takes a little bit of some time to render the high definition version. So just be patient with it. It will come out eventually. Let's talk about what was the big performance for the day, and I will go through, of course, all the index charts, but it was the small caps. So if you look into some of the sectors, right, I always have this sorted again by percentage change from open rather than the overall performance, because I like to see what happens during the session. Were things being really bought, or sometimes for instance, when we gap open in the morning, sometimes it invites sellers in, and sometimes the opening print is the highest print for the day. But you could see, definitely some follow through. This, I'll tell you, I was a little bit worried. I was watching the Bezos go up in space this morning, but we were giving back all the pre-market gains going into the open, and we started to see the VIX climb a little bit, and the market kind of, the price action reversed there, and we started to see, buyers come in and step in. So really, overall risk on rally, and I'll start with IWM. We'll talk about Netflix too, that reported to after the close. But let's look at that. Oops, I got the wrong symbol in here. But let's talk about the big mover of the day. This was basically for IWM and in my opinion, some of the other areas of the market that had really gotten beaten up over the last week. A little bit of an oversold rally. It's really difficult to figure out based on what we saw last week as well as what we've seen so far this week, what's going to happen with these small caps next. I think it would be great if they kind of get back into the range here, maybe have one more day of a rally to do that. Notice, one of the levels that I was talking about this morning was 213.70. I actually got rid of some overnight risk. I was long IWM coming into this, but I just didn't know if we were going to be able to get into value. But you could see this first 9 o'clock bar. It looked like we were going to reject this value area. So, tricky. This wasn't a layup, going into the open. They almost went red on the session. You could see from right around 8 o'clock in the morning till about the open, things were looking a bit sketchy. And you could see this first 5-minute bar. We actually went much lower, right? And we came back and buyers basically stepped in. And from that point, it was pretty consistent throughout the session. A little bit of a give back there at 1 o'clock, as well as at the end of the day. But overall, an up 3% day for the small cap. So again, it's one of those things that, as much as I rely on price and trend and so forth, you just kind of have to realize when the odds are stacked for more of a, pretty decent bounce. So I think for now, that's what we have in the small caps, and I think that's a good place to start. You could see on the bottom left of your screen, this was one of the questions that I had coming into today, was whether or not we were going to see strong breath, right? Just because things were oversold to the downside, and we saw the put call ratio spike, right? Which again is always a nice contrarian. For me, it's always a nice contrarian indicator, right? Whenever everybody's buying a lot of puts, right? Will normally see that. And I did put this out on. I should have this here. So if you look at what I tweeted out last night, specifically because it has the IWM in there, but let's see if I can find this. Yeah, whenever this tends to really spike up and get over 0.6, or in that area of 0.6, it usually is a good contrarian signal, right? Everybody's buying puts always at the wrong time. That's just how it works, right? That's everybody's buying oh no, I don't have any puts on. I need to go and buy them. This could be the market crash, right? So that is the quick thinking behind when people are buying a whole bunch of puts, right? There's usually a little bit of not exactly blood in the streets, which is essentially when you want to be buying stocks, right? When things are pretty bad out there, that's when you want to be buying stocks for a contrarian signal. So obviously not that bad, but there was definitely some negative sentiment out there this week. All right, so that's the story with that. If we go over and we look at it to S&P, interesting. We're basically right back to the open. It's very close to where we started the week at. So we're back above these short-term moving averages. One of the takeaways from yesterday's price action, I thought, which was pretty positive, was that we stayed above value. Right, so S&P futures did not get into the value area for the month. Right, still holding that breakout. So all in all, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some follow through, but I'm not really heavily positioned for it. I think it's earnings season. You could see Nasdaq even more. With futures, with this, we didn't even break the 20-day moving average yesterday. In terms of where we closed, and you got a nice bullish engulfing. So like I said, pretty decent price action all the way through. Just to kind of go over before we talk about some single stocks, but what did perform the best was aerospace and defense, right? So if you look at this ETF, ITA, again, I always like to go over what the big movers were, and I will say this too. What's particularly difficult. TXT was up 5.5% today. That's a name. I think that was just announced. I forget what broker said that they put them on like their recommendation list. Boeing had a good day. I mean, this is not stuff that I was in. I do like RTX. Let's just take a look at a chart of RTX. I mean, yeah, oversold, right? Big gap down. Right, and now basically just coming back to where it was. So I still don't like this chart, but if you caught some of these moves, I was looking at a couple other things like Caterpillar today. Again, oversold to the downside, right? So oversold bounce. There's not much to really hang your hat on, on something like this, right? Deere's a little bit better. I like the chart of Deere. We'll just wait for Thinkorswim. I thought about putting on a trade in Deere. I didn't do it. So again, I'm playing a little bit more conservative because that's kind of what my game plan tells me to do. I think for the next 2 weeks, I don't want to put on, I don't want to have to manage a ton of swing trades. Remember what I said in yesterday's video, right? The more nimble I could be, the less positions that I have around here, I could really kind of go with whatever the price action is telling me. I don't want to have in my trading account a bunch of swing trades on right now. And I think if this market kind of continues to show some volatility like this from day to day, there's some nice day trading opportunities, right, that you can counter on. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for, is that we continue to see a tape where it's got decent ranges, so that we can continue to do that. But no, I don't want to be for the next couple weeks while earnings season is going on. I don't want to be owning like a ton of positions here and there. That's fine. Some starter positions, I'm okay with that. And especially not so much on the option side, unless I'm just taking a flyer on something, like I did last night by going long some IWM calls, right? Something like that is fine, with options, but I don't want to put on in my opinion, like I don't want to put on a big swing trade with options here. Like I said, for at least for the next 2 weeks, as we're getting more results. The banks were also very strong today, right? Also kind of the same, in my opinion, the same type of thing going on here, right? Again, these charts look very similar, right? Now, this did come into the 200-day moving average, so it was a logical place for it to bounce. But I don't know. I don't see too much to say, hey, like that was a big reversal bar. I think some of these sectors, I'm going to just continue to say what I've been saying. And, once things start to look ugly, they could bounce at any point. Same thing with the steel names. They were up close to 2% for the day. Clean energy had a nice bounce today. So, I want to continue to kind of watch and pay attention to what is, what is acting very well. and where charts are setting up a little bit better. So for example, I know this is not probably one on the top of your list, but I like this Home Depot chart a lot. Right, nice bullish candle coming out of consolidation. Amazon was a name that really was not an outperformer at all today. It was up at 1.1% today, but at least holding support, holding that breakout level. One name that I'm watching, or Palo Alto, was one name that I've been talking about for the last couple days. A member, TTG member, brought this name to my attention last week, and I had tried a trade on Friday, decided to bail on it, and I got back into it this morning, and this thing looks good. So this is what I'm referring to. This is a nice constructive looking chart. Another one that I'm watching too is Akamai. Right, it did not close where I wanted it to. I put on a starter position, but I'll put my alert back at just north of 118, and we'll pay attention to that one. Names like this, ASAN, continue to act very well. Right, really nice bar yesterday on this top of value, moving higher. The whole software space actually was very good. Hubs is another one. I know this Hubs is kind of a difficult name, but did reverse course there. Twilio is shaping up a little bit, after getting hit a little bit last. Sorry, after getting hit a little bit last week. This thing's starting to come around. INMD, this was one of our watch list names this week. So this is what I'm referring to, right? This is much different looking than some of those industrials, some of those bank charts, right? This one, really held up very nicely last week. Kind of gave an opportunity, right? They announced preliminary results. They gapped up. They kind of came in here a little bit and moved higher, so very strong. The semis woke up a little bit at the end of the day. That's also another sector that I want to see start to kind of come back and lead. Again, work in progress. Nice to see it get back in value, but I don't think anything to kind of really hang your hat on yet. ROKU, I'm going to talk about some names that reported earnings, but ROKU made a nice little turn. I like to use, this was a trade idea that I gave members once this thing got into value here. So made a nice move into value. And then you had some follow through from once this thing broke in value, about 410 up to about 417. Notice where this thing stopped, right at a 5-minute VPOC, right? So that was the target. And then anything after that is very nice. Right, and going over to our charts channel, that was the ROKU idea. By the REITs, by the way, goodness, you could look at IYR, you could look at VNQ, but very strong, up 2.25%. So again, very constructive looking chart. I actually took some of this realty income, right? So this broke value today. So pushed higher. What's the other one? IIPR, just another REIT. This is Innovative Industrial Properties. But I'm telling you, some of these REITs really look pretty nice. This did not close on the highs. So again, sometimes you just want to watch some of these things. All right, so that was that. Snow is another one too. That we talked about in yesterday's video, had some follow-through action. Again, not huge today, up 1.6%, because again, I think it was more about, growth and value did very good today, but you could see a lot of names that, had been underperforming for the last week, really had some good days today. So that's that. What else was in my Carvana had a nice day. This AN got a little bit unlucky when it reported the day that it reported earnings. This was a name that we reviewed pre-market this morning. I thought this one could get to new highs. It certainly did. And then if you want to look at, of course, some of the other used car type companies, Carvana had a nice day, up 4.6%. I would watch this name tomorrow. It's very close to a breakout. Nice looking chart. How did the the lithium companies. I almost went long this today. I couldn't make up my mind and just decided not to do it. Um, and if you look at a couple of names within the group, ALB, remember ALB last week put in a really nice day. This was another one that I was looking at today, and I did not pull the trigger on it. But still, nice little consolidation here. Maybe this punches out here. All right, let's go over just a couple of names that reported earnings. Chipotle. Let me just see. This is a name that I am long in the TTG Trend Portfolio. New highs, so 1646. So really nice. That's great for the TTG Trend Portfolio and those that are following that portfolio. ISRG. This is also almost up to 1,000 now. Right, little bit of a delayed response after earnings, but really strong numbers. If you go into our news channel where we have all this information in here. Really good numbers. Now here's a little bit of a. I played Netflix to the short side. I actually sold the call spread and bought a put spread. So if Netflix doesn't do anything, I don't really lose much. Here's the trade that I put on. Again, I always show what I do for these trades, but interesting. They were only implying a 5.8% move for earnings. Usually, the last 5 quarters, it usually trades about 8%. So the market makers really were pricing this pretty cheap, and it looks like they got it right because Netflix, which I usually sell an iron, I usually do an iron condor. Trade an iron condor where I sell a call spread, sell a put spread. I think I would have been better with that one. What I decided to do this time around was buy a put spread, and I sold the call spread, 550, 560. So net, this was a net debit of 40 cents. So bearish structure, but I tell you, I think what's going on here is that which I was a little bit worried doing the structure, is that the expectations were so low. Because I didn't see anything that was really, great in their quarter. They missed. So remember last quarter this happened, and they missed their numbers, and the bottom fell out, and they went, they went down, and they stayed down for basically a month or so, right? And then they kind of climbed back up. So I'm surprised that they're doing what they're doing right now. But I just think it's one of those situations in terms of expectations. If the expectations are super low, it's an easy bar to jump over, which is why I'm spending a little bit of time here, because we're going to have all these big companies reporting, and it's really going to matter. It will matter what the expectations are for some of these companies, right? We've talked about that before. If the expectations are super high, and even if a company reports really good earnings, sometimes the reaction will be bad just because the expectations are too high, right? In this situation, I even did a poll in the room saying, "What do you think Netflix is going to do?" And most people said down. So again, I think expectations were a little bit low, right? So what did I do? Whenever I have one of these structures on, it's important if you're trading options. And especially if you have options on around earnings, in my opinion, you should know how to hedge it with stock so that you could lock in your profits. Right? This Netflix went all the way down to 500. So being that I have a bearish structure in, that's one way for me to lock in the profit is to buy the stock, right? Which is what I did, and I'm sitting decently now, even though I won't have, if Netflix opens up here tomorrow and kind of stays around these levels, I won't have a profit on the option structure, but I will have a profit on the stock that I traded. So again, very important. This is something, if I do choose to play a couple names for earnings, you bet I will be doing some trading in the after hours market, depending on which way the initial reaction is, and depending on how I'm positioned. All right, guys, that's it. I'll put out some more charts a little bit later, but that's it for today. And here's my trades. Again, not like usually when the market's moving like this, I actually trade a little bit more. But again, I want to stick to my game plan. Your game plan should be set while the market is closed, and then you should try to follow that. And obviously adjust to what the market is doing, but make sure that you don't go crazy. Just sometimes when we see a really nice green tape where where we've got strong breadth, which is what we had today, sometimes you end up chasing a little bit into that green tape, and you end up putting on too many trades. So I just made sure that I didn't do that. I had a nice Microsoft day trade. I mainly positioned yesterday. I was buying the dip yesterday. So Amazon was a nice trade. I have the last portion of that trade on. I actually wanted to get out of that today. Market Maker just wouldn't allow me to do it. But that's it. That's it for today, guys. Have a great night. Nice price action. And I'm rooting for some follow-through action tomorrow, but it will be interesting. That's the way it's been lately. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.